Welcome to Hot Sauce Sports Edition MMA. I guess we never really named the show. It's just Terry calling in Emilio so we can talk shit about the fight. My name is Terry Tam, as you know, and we're with Emilio Greco for the third time, and probably not the last time. Emilio, how's it been going so far?
No, not too bad, man. You?
Not bad, man. I've been playing Mario Kart to keep me busy. I got a new one. My girlfriend bought it off her brother-in-law, so we've been playing it there. She's been kicking my ass too. It's the worst part.
Come on, man. I gotta step up your game, man.
Fuck, I haven't played in like 15 years minimum. Minimum. It's crazy, man. It's the most frustrating game I've ever played in my life. Because it's so easy, but it's so hard. It's like so stupidly hard. It doesn't fucking make sense. So fight week's over. We're a week removed almost. What did you think? Is the boner gone? What's going on in your mind?
Man, honestly, amazing, man. Amazing fights. Kind of a different feel with the no fans thing, but like you could like really. I think after like the Smith and Teixeira fight, like that was kind of fun. That like the coaches were like, 100% of the jabs landed. Teixeira like, no, it's not. Like it's like shut up. Like that was like kind of cool. Like that you kind of picked up on that. Whereas if the fans were there, you kind of been like, what are they saying? And then later on, you would find out, but you were in the action the whole time. So it's awesome, man. And the fact that now like they're just always announcing fights every day. It's like, oh man, like all right.
I haven't seen any of the announcements. I've seen the rumors go. Like I've seen Israel Adesanya is supposed to fight Paulo Costa. Like they're talking about it. They haven't really set a date. Who's on UFC 250 so far?
250. Well, I was just checking. A lot of fights that they're putting in for June 20th.
Because
I'll
check now also. The last time I saw, there was only one fight on the UFC 250 card. Now.
So they put like it's obviously Nunes and Spencer. They allowed they put Perez and Formiga, which is actually a sick fight.
Oh yeah, Formiga's sick.
Yeah, they put
the other guys. I don't really know too much. Ian Heinich, Gerald Merschart. I don't know how to pronounce that. Alonzo Menefield versus Darren Clark. I don't really know those guys.
Yeah, they're going to announce some fights, but then they announced on May 30th Woodley versus Burns, which is a crazy fight. That's just amazing. And then they also announced today that Sugar Sean O'Malley is fighting Eddie Wineland.
That's a sick fight too.
That's a really good fight. So like, and every fighter is just excited. Everybody wants to fight as often as possible now. So it's like not like any other place where people are like, you know what, we want to be safe because of COVID. Fighters like we want to fight ASAP right now, anytime, any place. So like the motivation is just at an all-time high, so it's to be super fun to see, what matchups are going to be out there. Also, Shane Burgos is fighting Josh Emmett. That's a sick fight too.
Josh Emmett always comes out to fight, so you're going to get a fight with those two guys. So we mentioned him, and I want to bring him up. He's kind of off topic, but Tyron Woodley, what a fall from grace, that guy.
Yeah. No, it's. Like the whole talk of greatest welterweight of all time, I never bought into that because obviously George St. Pierre is just the best. And then there's Matt Hughes. There's a big list before you could even start talking about that. Yeah. But like the people he was beating at the time, like they were prime guys. They were really good guys. And
when he KO'd Koscheck.
Oh man, that Koscheck knockout was crazy. He beating Stephen Thompson when he was at his all-time prime. Darren Till, we was at the all-time hype. Like he
choked him out.
He beat so many guys in different ways. So when he lost against Usman like that, it was kind of like there's a lot of factors that was going with him in his life. So we needed him. We needed to see him at it again. And now what a good fight for a guy of Burns. A guy that a lot of people, if you're not a fan, you don't know who he is. But if you are a fan, you know exactly who he is, and he's a big problem for Woodley. But to fight that Woodley, if he beats him, it's a name that could get him back into that title contention spot. So
I think it's more of Woodley might be in that range where he becomes a gatekeeper for the division, where it's like you kind of have to go through him to become a champion. And I don't think the UFC is going to give him another chance at the belt unless he runs like a crazy streak. He's going to have to beat Burns, then he's going to have to beat probably Masvidal. Then he's gonna have to be like 3-4 guys to get a chance. And it sucks because he was a good champion. It's just that his last 3 fights were a little boring, and one of them he lost to. All 3 of them weren't exciting, but he got dominated by Usman, and then against the 2 fights against Wonderboy. I don't know. That wasn't championship level fighter right there, like compared to what we've seen Usman do, how he's able to dominate. I think Woodley kind of took a step back and focused on other things. But who am I to judge? I mean, he's a great fighter. We all love him, but I think that he's kind of blackballed himself too with the UFC.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to say as like a gatekeeper. I really hope he doesn't enter that like Eric Brunson kind of gatekeeping way. And yeah, like when he was a champion, there's a lot of fights that could have been, should have been, and him and Dana going back and forth on it. So obviously, like that kind of like stained his reputation. But for him, like if he wants to get back on track, this is the perfect time. And Burns is a perfect opponent for him to bounce back on. And it's just a shame for him that like when he lost the title, the welterweight division just came out of nowhere. Colby Covington, Usman, Masvidal, Connors in that mix. There's so many fun fights now at welterweight that when he was champion, it was kind of like we knew who he was going to fight next. And now it's like kind of it's like a frenzy. Now everybody's going up to welterweight, back to lightweight, so everyone's going back and forth. So I think he kind of missed the boat when he was champion, but if there's a time for redemption, it's now.
For him to fight Durinho for me, he's a legend to me because I watched him in jiu-jitsu first. Like I saw him win the world championships. I saw him beat Crone in the finals of the world championships. Mm-hmm. So like to me, Durinho is like at a different level, but Woodley is a much better all-around MMA fighter than Durinho. Durinho won his last fight against Damian Maia.
Yeah.
So I mean that was a good fight for him to win, but it's Damian Maia at 39 years old, kind of on the last days of his career. I think this is a perfect fight for Woodley. For Durinho, I don't think it's a good fight for Woodley. I think Woodley should have fought somebody a little bit higher. That's why I say he's kind of like that gatekeeper-esque, because it looks like if they're doing this to Woodley now, I think that they're using him kind of to see what the measure is of some of these younger guys coming up.
Yeah, and that's a fair statement because you have a guy like in Burns where he's so good at jiu-jitsu, but now he's getting that confidence, and now like when a jiu-jitsu guy gets confidence and he's going like in striking, like we saw with Crone against Cup, obviously didn't go on Crone's way, but that confidence that he has, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna box too. Like I'm gonna show that even though my family and my my credentials in jiu-jitsu at such a high level, I'm gonna show that my other criterias in MMA is probably at the same level.
And Maia too, when he came out and he started doing well at boxing, everybody's like his hands got so much better, and he did. And then he lost to Askren. And then he kind of reverted back to his old ways, and it was like, okay, they obviously want to go ground first, which is fine. So let's talk about the fights from last week. What was your fight of the week if you had to pick one? Exclude 249 because we kind of already spoke of 249.
Man, honestly, I think maybe like the emotion from it, and I rewatched the fight too, was. And it's probably not like the craziest exciting. There's obviously more fights, more exciting. But I think the Walt Harris and like Overeem, it was like that. It was that moment where you thought like, oh, Walt Harris got it, like he's gonna do it. And then after everything, like he just switched up on it. And then like you see Overeem, like even in the beginning, like he goes and hugs him, like that emotion. And he kind of like felt bad and like it was just a weird kind of like an emotional roller coaster ride watching that fight. And then. Like, and I'm watching it again. It's like, wow, like you really, like you fell for the guy. When he lost, like it brought something out that a lot of people like. Okay, this is the only live sports. It's UFC. People just two guys punching each other in the face, and then you get that emotion side of it. So it was like.
Yeah, in a time now where family is like so important kind of thing, and then you see they showed over and over again the video of his daughter, and it's like they really put it into you. And then when you see him fight, and he almost wins in the first 2 minutes, he almost kills over it. You're like, fuck, is he gonna do it? And then he just gasses out. And Overeem fought well. I mean, you can't take anything away from Overeem. He got rocked. He stayed alive, and he was able to finish. Yeah,
so like that was great. Also, the Smith and Teixeira fight was like. Man, like, what do you do with Smith now? Like, is Teixeira really the bounce back? Is he going to be fighting a top tier guy? Maybe a title run? Like, but then Smith, like, what's going on in his head? Like, wasn't really, especially that I think it was in the third round. He goes back, it's like, my teeth are falling. It's like, what? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like
my teeth are falling out. It's like,
it's like, what?
What do you? So you've coached guys. You've been in a corner. What would you say? What would you do in that situation?
It's like being a coach, especially if you watch like the Fight Companion, Eddie Bravo kind of really elaborated pretty well of how it was when he.
I'm halfway done. I haven't watched the full thing yet, but I saw the part that you're talking about.
Yeah, when it was with Ferguson, and he explained like how he wasn't there, and that he saw him cut up. Like it's an emotional thing. And I think that's the hardest thing about being a coach.
Yeah.
And I think for me, even at coaching, I think I would do it like kind of there's a limit of how many people I would do because I get really emotionally attached. And if one of my guys would come here, it's like my teeth feel like falling out, and I see that he's dying. If you could see that your fighter is really on the cusp of like dying, and he's like, I can't. At that point, you could just you throw away the towel, knowing that it's that one fight. He's getting battered. There's kind
especially
of like
going into the 5th round.
Yeah,
like going into the 5th, he was already losing. Right, he wasn't. I don't think he won a round. If he won the first round, maybe because he came out strong in the first round. He looked good. But the whole thing, and DC had a point because I noticed it too. Was during the broadcast, I hear his coaches counting down, like counting his combos, and they're yelling. I'm like, it's distracting for me. I can imagine how distracting it is for Anthony Smith. So he's just throwing combos out of like being on autopilot, and then as soon as something kicks you off the rail, you don't know what you're doing anymore, and that's what happened. He got gassed. He was shooting in because he was tired a minute into the 4th round.
Yeah.
So if I'm them, after the 4th round, he comes in and he says, my teeth are falling out, and I just saw what I saw. I don't know if I would let him leave, but it's another thing is your coach is, he tells you, don't ever throw in the towel. Like, it's up to me. I'm going to die out there. But you have to kind of protect him. I don't think, at the end of the day, he's not going to fire you or be mad at you because you saved him from maybe another 5 years of brain damage. It's crazy.
And that's why it's kind of hard when we go into coach and then, let's switch the roles. Now, let's say I'm fighting and I go back and I'm getting a beating. I look at my coach, I tell him the same thing. There's no way in hell any one of my fights where I've wanted to stop or I want my coach to stop. I want to go there. I'm the type of guy, like even, like my techniques or whatever, but if we're in a brawl, man, I want to brawl till you knock me out. I want to die in there. Like literally, like maybe like if any of the situations, whatever, but if I'm in a fight, like I train 8 weeks for it, like I'm going to die in there. Like This guy's got to put me out. So to go back to the coach, a guy fighting here, like you kind of feel that he feels the same thing. But then as a coach, you're thinking about like there's brain damage for CT. There's so many different levels to this. Like one more round of a beating could take 5-10 years off his like his fight career. So you kind of like it's hard, man. Being a coach is really hard, and like shout out to all those coaches, man.
It reminds me of when Otis Grant, when he fought Roy Jones Jr. and it was like the 6th or 8th round, and he was just getting destroyed by Roy Jones in his prime. And Russ Amber was in his corner that day, and Howard Grant, Otis's brother, and they just threw in the towel. They just said, "Fuck it, we're not gonna let this happen anymore." Otis ended up retiring after that. Good for him. Successful business now. We all love Otis. Otis is a god in Montreal. So so there was a lot of other fights I wanted to cover. We can talk for hours about this week. Okay, who was the biggest coming out party for you? That was a question that I wanted to ask you, because there was a lot of guys that I never heard of before. So which is good that there was all these fights, because normally I wouldn't watch the prelims. Like I'd probably watch a few of them if I knew one or two of the names, but I won't watch all of them. So who was your biggest coming out party?
Hold on, I wanna say his name right. This guy really kind of.
I have a feeling we're gonna say the same guy.
Yeah, let me see. That was I think on Wednesday or Saturday. Hold on, where's my boy? Smith Shara. I think it was. No, it's Ferguson. What the hell? No, 25th, was it? No, where's my boy?
Was he the kickboxer?
The
guy from Georgia?
Nah, he was the wrestler, man. He was like broken back. I think I'm thinking about Saturday's fight.
You're talking about the guy that beat Darren Elkins?
Yeah.
Nate the Train Landwehr.
There you go, Nate the Train.
I love that guy, man. I love that guy.
Like, okay, you beat, the damage. He's known for the damage for a reason. He gets crazy beatings.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, he did it.
He walked him down with his hands down.
Whoo, man, that's a dude that you gotta, like, watch out for, man. Like, I know maybe in his next fight, like, obviously, like, it's Elkins. Like, no disrespect to Darren, but, like, when you fight Darren, you're there to die. This guy's gonna come and kill you, man. And for him to beat Elkins in an Elkins fashion, it was like, oh man, like,
it was fun to watch, man. I loved watching that fight, and I think it was one of the last ones on the prelims, or was it early?
Yeah,
anyway, I remember turning in. I'm like, first of all, this guy, he looks like he's from Holland, from Sweden. He looks like a politician with his hair, with
Yeah.
the part in his hair. I never heard him talk. Right? I see he has a tattoo. Like one of the commentators said that both guys have the tattoos of their nicknames on their chest. So I was looking for it all fight. I see it says the Train right over here. So I'm like, okay, I like this guy. He's walking him down. He's bloody. Darren Elkins is a tough motherfucker, obviously, right? Yeah. And then at the end, his interview at the end, I loved him, man. I didn't understand a word he said, but I loved it. I love this guy. I'm an instant fan.
Yeah, and then another guy too. When I was watching it, fight. So now was Song, man. Song against Vera.
Yeah.
A lot of people are gonna say it's kind of like everyone was going more for Vera, and I get it. It's a good case. It's a good case to say if you thought Vera would have won.
Yeah.
But man, this kid, 22 years old, first of all, super young.
Good camp.
This guy, he kind of reminds you of Superboy. You know.
The Korean kid, what's his name?
Yeah, the Korean Superboy.
The one that he got into like a crazy brawl with was it Cub Swanson?
Yeah,
that was
and that was in Toronto, man. That was
exactly
insane. So like he kind of reminded me like him, like he was calm and he was throwing a jabs, boxing, the movement. I'm like, and I was happy that he got to win because kid, he's young, he's gonna learn from this, and he's gonna just climb higher up in the ranks, and like he's the guy to watch out for. And like just the army, like the Chinese nation now, like in so many years, like they were respected in the martial arts world, and now you have Weili Zhang champion. These guys are coming up, so it's kind of cool to see a different like a nationality coming up and like trying to like take over MMA, because for a long time it was Brazilians or Americans. It was one or two, with the exception of George.
And so now, like you said, we're seeing the Chinese come in, the Asian invasion, I guess we'll call it, right? Mm-hmm. Korean Zombie, but I haven't seen the I guess Superboy, that was his nickname, eh? But I haven't seen him in a while. I know he had that brawl, and he's like, I'm gonna take some time off, but
he got knocked out by our boy, man, from Montreal, man. What's it, Charles? Forgot his last name, but I just know it was Charles.
Jordan? Is it Jordan?
Yeah. I think
we talked about him last week. Yeah. It's true. Fuck, I remember that, and I didn't see the fight. I saw it on the score, and I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, and I always made up. I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna find it and watch it because I haven't seen the fight.
Great fight.
One guy that came out to me was he fought a guy. He fought a guy that filled in last second. He fought. His name is Giga Chigatse. He was the boxer. The reason why he impressed me so much is because he was so calm the entire fight. Obviously, he was fighting a guy that had just cut weight, driving there. It wasn't the best fight, obviously. But he, as a whole, when I watched him, he impressed me because he was trying flying knees. He was going for it. He didn't take it easy. I remember when Khabib fought Ali Quinta, and Ali Quinta came in late, short notice. He cut weight, whatever. And Khabib kind of took the fight off. Like, he just kind of chilled, boxed, he wrestled a bit, but he didn't really try anything more than that. And which I respect when it comes. Not that I disrespect what Khabib did. It's the belt, right? He didn't want to risk it. And Ali Quinta's a fucking brawler. But for Giga to come out and still go at it, like go for the knockout every single time, was impressive to me. Him, the KO by Kevin Holland, the guy that KO'd Matt Brown too. He KO'd him. Baeza, something like that. I never heard of him before.
Yeah, Matt Brown's gotta hang it up, man. I love him. I love him to death, man. Yeah. He's a cool dude, but it's I think it's time for him.
Yeah, I think with Matt Brown, it's that he's kind of like has the Cerrone, but he's not as talented as Cerrone is. Where Cerrone is such a big name and Matt Brown isn't anymore. Like Matt Brown had made his run, didn't make it. He couldn't get the title shot. So he's kind of been falling backwards. So there's a lot of crazy fights. To me, a few questionable decisions by the judges for the entire week. Big one to me, even though I kind of won on it, was Dan Ige versus Edson Barbosa. I always play devil's advocate. I can see where Dan Ige might have squeaked in a second round, but Edson Barbosa was all over him the entire fight.
Yeah, and he looked good. Like I was already thinking, I'm like, first of all, how could he make the weight for how shredded he was at 155? He looked really good. Obviously, like Barbosa, like kind of, the end of the rounds, he kind of like takes it off, get his gas, and we didn't see a lot of like his kicks, like a lot of his front kicks, whatever. Like he played as is, but like he looked good, and he won that fight. And like you said, you could see how Ige won. You could like look at that way, like get the points. But man, Barbosa knocked him down. Like we're forgetting, like he knocked him down. Like that's a 10-8 round.
Yeah, easy.
Like, are you telling me? And even Ige did win the second. Barboza won the third. So
For
like,
sure, third.
So where's the math in that? It didn't really make sense to me.
I mean, it benefited me. I mean, I ended up losing the bet that I made. I made a 5-fight parlay, and I lost. Took Walt. The only fight I was missing was Walt Harris, and he lost it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I probably would have won like $300 or whatever it was. So that was it. I mean, Eric Anders versus Jotko. I like Eric Anders. You know, he has that football background. I mean, I played for Alabama. You gotta love the guy, but he's had like he lost 3 out of his last 4 fights, something like that, and he fought Jotko. Jotko didn't even look great in this fight, and Eric Anders wasn't able to dominate him like he should have.
Yeah, like you said, coming from a football background, especially in Alabama, very prestigious team. So you would think that his athleticism would play more of a factor than actual, his boxing. You know, he should have just been taking him to the ground, taking him against the cage. And even though it would have been a boring fight, it should have been not easy. I hate saying the word easy, but a win that he should have gotten.
Yeah.
In other words, I think it was a win that he got and maybe put him back on track. But like, it was just, like you said, Jotko, it wasn't even his best performance, and at that, so it kind of like Dana has to go back to the drawing board. Like, hey, what do we do with this guy now? Like, it's very questionable depending on his contract. Obviously, I don't know, but very questionable if might be one of the last times you can see him.
So, that's for fight week. So I asked you a question to prepare, and I asked you to tell me what are the next fights to make in the lightweight division, the welterweight division, and the heavyweight division. So what do you think? What do you think we should be looking at right now?
Okay, well, I'm gonna see this as like a fan, like of a crazy ass fan.
That's it.
As a crazy ass fan.
We don't work for the UFC, so whatever you say doesn't make sense. So say it as a fan.
Unless Dana gives me a call, man. I'm down, Uncle Dana. Give me a call, baby. I got some crazy fights for you. We'll make some money. Heavyweight, I don't care what anybody says. Let's see John Jones and Ngannou. Yeah, exactly. Let's see what happens. Let's see if John Jones is that talented. Let's see if he is that skill. And obviously Ngannou could kill anybody in just one. Even if he misses, just a graze of his hand will knock you out. But let's see if he could get that on John. Let's see how John looks at heavyweight. We don't know if John could maybe get like a knockout power. Like Ngannou's chin was never tested. Let's see what happens with reach. Let's see what happens with power. Like things could happen. Like it's a very possible fight. And it's a very possible win for John. But
for sure,
it goes back and forth, and that's why the fight's amazing, because people are like, Ngannou's gonna knock him out cold, but then John's gonna use his that's a very interesting fight.
John has, I think, the same reach as him. So take reach out, because John's reach is, John has a longer reach than Ngannou does.
Mm-hmm. So John has an 88. It's like,
I think John's reach is the longest in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw him lifting his benching the other day, 500 pounds. Like, he's looking fucking jacked. I love it, man. I love it, because the thing is that if you want to be a fan, this is if you're going to be a fan, this is the fight to watch. But if for the UFC, they have to look at what's going to happen with the heavyweight division. If I look at Stipe, we don't know when he's going to come back. Ngannou, he can't wait for Stipe. He has to make money. He has to fight. Ngannou is a circus act. I mean, we'll be straight up about it. Like, we just want to see him destroy guys. And John Jones is waiting for a fight because there's nobody good enough for him to fight. Yeah, I mean, Santos, we can say he deserves a shot. Reyes, maybe a second shot too. I mean, it's tough to go that route because we don't really know what's going on with their injuries. But for John Jones, he wants a fight too, and he's already been talking about it for the last year about going to heavyweight, so it's perfect for him too. If John Jones gets knocked out by Ngannou, then the argument's settled.
Yeah,
John Jones is the best light heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, and like you just said too, like there's no one interesting in the light heavyweight division. And those two guys, Reyes and Santos, is the perfect fight. Yeah. That's the perfect fight to make in a division where it's kind of there's nothing that interesting, but that's the only fight to make.
Well, the next 3 fights in the light heavyweight division are Blachowicz, Reyes, or Santos, and he's beaten 2 out of the 3. For John Jones, he knows that he has a couple fights left. Why is he going to waste it on these 3 bums when he can go fight Ngannou and make millions?
Why would you fight Jan Blachowicz? If I was going to a guy who never watched fighting and I told him that John Jones, the greatest light heavyweight, greatest fighter, arguably the greatest fighter of all time, is fighting Jan Blachowicz, Guys like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck is Jan Blachowicz? And then you show a picture of him, and he's not even going to be even remotely intrigued in that fight. It doesn't make sense. So John has to go to heavyweight, fight Francis, light heavyweight, put Reyes and Santos. That's interesting. That's actually a fight that, like, you know what? Okay, let's see what the light heavyweight has to offer. Let's see this fight. It makes sense, and especially Santos hasn't fought since the Jones fight. Reyes, both guys coming off from the Jones fight. Let's see what happens when both guys get kind of a redemption shot.
So that's for heavyweight. I mean, heavyweight, there's only a handful of fights maximum. Lightweight is a division where right now it's exploded. We don't know what's going to happen. So what's next other than we know that Gaethje's going to fight Khabib for the belt?
So Gaethje's going to fight Khabib, which is amazing. Yeah. Now, the time frame of that, we don't know when. We don't know when it's going to happen. Honestly, there's obviously a lot of great fighters. Now Ferguson, who knows? Apparently, Ferguson started training 2 days after he came out of hospital. Insane. But
I believe it. I believe it.
But we'll scratch Tony for a bit now, and it sucks to say first, but before we get into it, it sucks to say now that we're taking Tony out of a conversation that of that loss. 13 fights in a row, he loses one, and now he's just out of like a fantasy fight. That's just a sad thing, but that's the reality. That's how sick this game is.
Yeah,
that's just how brutal it is. But on lightweight, man, I think the fight you have to make is the trilogy fight of Nate and Connor at 155. They called it. They're like the third fight, let's do it at 155. That is Nate Diaz's prime weight, and that's Connor's prime weight. So let's get both those guys back in there. Fight Island, trilogy, prime Diaz, prime Connor, on the beach. Let's have some mojitos, let's have fun, and let's see who is the better martial artist. Like, okay, no titles on the line. But that's the fight with no title that's going to make more pay-per-views than any title fight that we're going to name on the show or anybody else is going to make.
Exactly. You're 100% right, because to me, that's the fight that everybody wants to see, right? As a fan, I want to see Nate Diaz and Connor, because Connor beating him by decision, to me, I thought Nate Diaz won. So, like, there's a population out there that thinks Nate Diaz won that fight. So, to me, Nate Diaz is 2-0. I mean, obviously he's not, but it's a fight to watch. Now, somebody I want to talk about is Charles Oliveira. Now, to me, Charles Oliveira.
Ooh, dark horse.
Ooh. Like, how has he not come up? I mean, the guy's he's been on a crazy fucking winning streak. He's killing everybody. He just beat Kevin Lee, tapped out Kevin Lee. Mm-hmm. So, like, he's the guy right now. And I think he should get somebody like a Poirier, or maybe Nate Diaz isn't a contender. So I can't talk about Nate. I'm a Nate Diaz number one fan, 100%.
I agree, though. I agree with what you're saying.
He's not a contender. Sure. Yeah. He's not. He hasn't fought, right? He lost to Masvidal. Before that, he beat
Pettis.
Who is it? Pettis, exactly.
Pettis, yeah.
So he's not even fighting at 155 anymore. So, like, for me, he's not really a guy to talk about. It's Gaethje, Ferguson, Connor. I'm throwing Charles Oliveira in there.
Well, a good fight for Charles is Ferguson. These are both guys that, if you go on the ground, that's really interesting, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, Oliveira is the lead. He leads the UFC with either finishes or submissions. One of the two. I think he surpassed Cerrone, or it's either submissions, but he's one of the top guys there. And the fact that he started UFC when he was, I think, 21 or 22, and now he's prime.
Because I've watched Charles Oliveira for years, man, for fucking years.
I'm gonna check. I'm pretty sure. I think he just turned, like, he's in his early 30s. He started fighting super young, and it's like you said. Like, I was always watching Charles. Like, Charles. Yeah, he just turned 30. Yeah,
there you go.
Just turned 30 years old.
So I mean, I hope that they figure something out with that. But I have been hearing that Connor and Dustin Poirier are both scheduled to fight in July. So we'll see what happens. They're probably gonna end up fighting each other. I would love to see that fight too, because the first time they fought, Connor clipped him. Mm-hmm. And Connor was on his rise, right? He had fought Poirier, then he fought for the belt. But I want to see that fight, because Poirier has gotten a lot better since then.
He's gotten a lot better too, and if you recall, and I remember this very vividly, and that's what kind of caught my eye with Connor. It was embedded, where Connor was in the whole. It was in the I think in not the living room. He was in the main room of the hotel, like in the first floor, like where reception is and everything. And Dustin passes by him, and Connor's just laughing hysterically, like he's making fun of it. And then Dustin's like, I've never hated the guy as much as I hated him. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that's how good Conor is for getting in your head. So when you got into the fight, Dustin was gone.
Yeah.
It was gone. And then like you kind of you thought that was gonna happen with Dustin when he was on his climb, and then you saw it again with Khabib. It kind of like shatter his morale. You know, Dustin isn't you know, a mentally sound guy as most. Very talented fighter, deserves where he is, being in the top 5, but you know, mentally, it could be a different game. I think that's the only advantage I see now. But if they do a rematch, man, that'd be very interesting. But I probably still go with Conor.
That'd be big time down for that. In the welterweight division, Usman dominated Colby Covington. TKO'd him in the 4th round. We got Tyron Woodley, who's about to fight Durinho, who's ranked number 6. We got Wonderboy at 5, Leon Edwards at 4. You assume he's going to fight number 3, Jorge Masvidal first. Damian Maia is chilling at number 7. Michael Chiesa, maybe he can make a run. Chiesa versus Wonderboy might be a decent fight. There's a lot of options in the welterweight division, which we haven't seen since we had like GSP, Robbie, Rory was making his becoming. Neil Magny was on like an 8-fight winning streak at the time. So like there's all these, we haven't seen a good welterweight division since then.
Yeah, and you're right. There's so many talented guys out there, and so many guys that could make another run, guys that could make a run. But I think the fight to make is Masvidal Usman. That's the fight to make. And even as a fan, like, and then that's what's even more interesting, because it's a fight to make, and it's a fight that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
Is that Masvidal now he got the BMF belt, and he goes against Usman, like, and gets the real belt. Like, this guy really would be kind of like, he would be up there as like a star as a fan, like. For like, you know, like obviously like people don't know, like I'm half Latin, like my mother's from Peru and all that. So on Univision, like that's hardcore status. Like fucking like people like Latins like kill for Univision. You know what I mean? Like that soap opera shit. And you seeing Masvidal there is like something like, what? You're seeing Masvidal there getting interviewed in Spanish fluently. Like people are like kind of forgetting kind of the stardom that he has. Like,
oh, for sure.
Like in English in America, but man, in South America, like with the Latinos, man, he's got people. If he gets like pay-per-view, you're gonna see those numbers, man.
For
like,
sure.
Like look what him and Diaz did. That was just they invented a belt.
Pretty much.
They invented a belt. So like that him against Usman, that's interesting. Now could Usman take Masvidal down? Like we've seen that happen, like when he was losing before, because kind of his resurrection. Like we saw that could be a flaw in Masvidal's game. Is Usman gonna go for that, or is gonna be like the Colby fight? Like, you know what? Let's hang. I don't think he would hang with Masvidal. Masvidal has better hands, better boxer than Colby, but
Colby looked good for a bit. I mean, before he fought, he destroyed Maia. I mean, before he fought,
the Robbie Lawler was the most impressive one. Was the most impressive fight.
He looked great against Lawler, and his hands aren't anything to ignore either. But I do get what you're saying, where Masvidal's boxing might be a little bit better than Colby, where Colby's wrestling though is at another level. You think Masvidal? That's a good fight for Masvidal?
Well, it's the only fight for Masvidal. It's obviously it's a difficult one. It's a difficult fight for Masvidal to win. I think Usman's wrestling is going to be the biggest key factor in that. And also, like we don't know where Masvidal is going to be in the 4th round. We don't know who's going to be in the 5th round in championship level fights. Like we never see him gain.
It's true, even against Nate, where it was 5 rounds, he the 4th and 5th round they didn't fight it because the ref stopped it, right?
Mm-hmm. He was going to the 3rd or 4th, and you know they stopped it. So we obviously looked good. He looked fresh. Like could he have kept up 5 rounds for sure? But that's what he looked because he was so dominant in the beginning. Now against Usman, like you don't know.
So what do we do with Leon Edwards now? He's kind of in like that middle range.
He's in an awkward situation because he was supposed to fight Woodley.
Yeah,
he was supposed to fight him, and that was going to be something that his name was going to come up. Or he was supposed to fight Masvidal with that whole brawl in the back when you were in the UK. Like there was so much opportunity for Leon, and he was going to fight Woodley, and then this whole Corona happened. He couldn't travel, so there were so many restrictions, and it's not the guy's fault. He wants to fight. He wants to be there, but it's just bad luck. And like for him, man, like the main guys are booked up. If I was him during this time, like maybe you wait it out and fight the winner of Burns and Woodley, or fight Colby. Colby's a guy who's saying he's active, saying he wants to fight.
He won't want to fight Leon because he's below him.
Exactly.
He thinks he should get another chance right away at Usman. I don't know why. I thought that Colby and Woodley was the next fight to make, and I hope Woodley could win so he can fight Colby, because that's a fight that needs to happen as a fan for the UFC and for the division.
Yeah, that's a really interesting fight because everything kind of like counteracts each other. Exactly. The only thing that you kind of look at is that Woodley has more power than Colby. That's the only thing that you could say he's better. But the wrestling is tossed up. Cardio probably maybe tossed up, or Colby gets it by just a hair. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
because Woodley backs up a lot where Colby goes forward. So Colby's cardio might benefit him in this one, I think.
Yeah, so
Woodley backs up a lot, like really a lot, because he's a counter puncher, right? So he's always waiting on his back foot. But I don't know. I think that's a bad matchup for Woodley. I think Colby would beat him. I really do.
It is, and like you said, like he really waits, and he, like you saw with Wonder Boy, he waited so much into the 4th round.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't care. Like he's so confident that if he hits you in the right time, he's gonna put you out. And like you saw again with Darren, and you saw that with his other fights. Kostrek, a perfect example.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So like he'll wait. He'll definitely wait that 5 rounds just to hit you once. And it's an interesting fight. It's a lot of questions on both sides for Colby and Woodley.
Did you see that the UFC announced their Hall of Fame?
Yeah, Kevin Randleman.
Yeah, so
not mad at that.
So Kevin Randleman's in. Not mad at that at all. Man, see how high he used to jump? It was crazy, man.
That guy was like, I saw him like,
I
forgot about Kevin. I'm like, let me look back, and I saw a couple fights. I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah. I mean,
like one of Mark Coleman who's like crying. I was like, okay, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, you kind of like the guy. They also announced their like different wings of the Hall of Fame. They have the Pioneers wing, Sakuraba, Matt Serra, Pat Miletich, Rich Franklin, Maurice Smith, Don Fry, Big Nog, Bas Rutten, Tito, Matt Hughes, Chuck Liddell, Mark Coleman, Randy Couture, Ken Shamrock, Hoist Gracie. Out of all those pioneers, which one's like the one that stood out to you? Is like, this is the reason why I watched the UFC.
Man, that's honestly that's tough because they all brought like a different. Chuck's in there, right?
Yeah,
it has to be Chuck. It has to be Chuck. It has to be him. He was the guy that like he made UFC cool. He made it like I remember. And I was rewatching just Entourage, and I remember there's the episode with Johnny, him and Johnny drama. I'm like, and that's where like you have like Bruce is young, like nobody knows the UFC is, and like that he was the first guy that crossed over to the Hollywood side. Like, hey, take a look at us. And then when he fought Tito, that bad blood. Like obviously there was Frank and Tito, like that was interesting, but Tito and Chuck was so authentic. They were friends and turned rivals. Like it was the perfect story that you couldn't script. And Chuck, his knockouts were just, and he fought. He didn't care when, where. He wasn't shredded up. He had a pad.
He's still like that now. He still wants to fight now.
Yeah, right now, you just don't do it, Chuck. No, like you've done what you got to do. It's enough.
For me, it was the opposite side of that. I was a Tito guy. I love Tito, man.
Tito's great.
Yeah. The Huntington Beach bad boy. He comes out. He comes out to Eminem with the American and the Mexican flag. Like he just talks shit all the time. I'll never forget when I first saw him talking shit to Ken Shamrock, and Ken Shamrock kicks the chair up, and Tito just starts laughing. I love it, man. I love that kind of thing. Like guys that get under other people's skin. Like to me, Tito did it perfectly. He was like the ultimate badass back then, and him. And then when I got into the UFC and into MMA, I started watching Pride and Strikeforce and all that stuff. Sakuraba's name came up. That's why I kind of started liking jiu-jitsu. Bas Rutten was always crazy with his open hand slaps.
Man.
And anyway, so
man.
There's too many guys. You pick one. It's a good answer. You know what I mean? Like
man. Like the first second is Boss. Like Boss for me is like he's my dude. He's like
one of the best. You interviewed him once.
Man. We talk a couple, go back and forth. Actually, when I got engaged, like he sent us a video of like,
cool,
congratulations. He's an amazing guy, man. Like, just I can't really say like how great he is. I'll just go like on like an hour rant, but like even his fighting style, like he has like so many submissions, but no takedowns. Like that's how good he is. That's like a fact that everyone kind of buzzed about. Yeah.
And he was like a Dutch kickboxer too, man. He had those long legs, and he came in. And, well, he's a Thai fighter more than anything else, right? But he threw those elbows and those palm strikes, man, bam, in the side of the head. And he was nasty. Then they had their fight wing. I remember you had done a series like this on your Instagram, and it was if somebody were to ask you, never watched the UFC fight, MMA fight, which fight should they watch?
Yeah.
What was your choice? What would be your choice?
I said Rory and Robbie, man. Rory and Robbie. That's like when you watch Rocky, when you watch that movie, watch this fight, you'll get the same feel, and you're gonna be like, "This is not real." When at the end of the fourth round,
yeah, exactly.
Both guys are bloodied up. They're about to go to their corners, and they're just staring each other off. Gush. That's a moment that you'll never forget. You're like,
I remember I was watching it at my friend's house, and we were kind of all standing up, and we're like this, just looking, and we're like, what the fuck? Just the craziest part of the fight was that 10 seconds, right? It was fucking crazy. To me, it's Shogun and Hindle. I mean, Shogun and Hindle is that was like I'm like, just go watch that fight, or go watch like a Silva Rampage from back in the day. Like these are the types of fights that I liked, or they hit the ground sometimes, and it like you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Like I said, it's whatever answer you give, it's a good answer. You know what I mean? It's tough to pick one.
No, yeah, that fight's amazing. Also, a fight that I think I watched the most, like I watched probably maybe like 20 times. I love it. Is Nick Diaz versus Gomi in Pride.
Oh yes. I just watched that. Amazing. I just watched that like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
That is amazing. Yeah. That was one of the best fights, and the fact that Nick Diaz was so high.
Oh my god!
Was like. And you're like, how this guy is that high, and he's actually like,
and he go plata that guy. How do you go plata Takanori Gomi for?
And at that point, Gomi was like the face of Pride. He was like the man, like the fireball kid. He was the guy. Like you couldn't touch him. And Nick Diaz comes in he comes overseas, high as a motherfucker, coming in, and then he submits him.
Yeah.
Like
he gets tagged, falls to the ground. They grapple a little bit. He gets that fucking sneaky leg over his shoulder, under his chin, and chokes him out, man. It was crazy to me to watch that. Thanks, Emilio, for coming on, buddy. Appreciate it. We'll be posting this. It'll be up Friday, May 21st. We appreciate it, buddy. The fights, I think there's fights next week.
May 30th, man. Woodley and Burns. Let's see what happens, man. Let's see what goes down with that fight. I'm super excited.
Next Saturday, I think Mackenzie Dern is fighting on that card too. She's back from having a baby. There's a lot of good fights on that card, so we'll probably get together and we'll talk about it after that. Thanks, Emilio, for coming on. I appreciate it, buddy.
Bless, brother. Happy to do this, and let's do it again very soon, man. Next week.
Oh, yeah. I'm down, man. I'm down. Let's fucking
do it.